up, guys? Chris from ThoseGamingNerds.com. We're trying something new today. For those of you familiar with Chris's Controversial Corner, guess what? Now you're going to understand not just how I feel about things, but the way I sound when I feel the way I feel about things. So, I'm doing this, no script, anything like that. Mark's laughing at me off in the corner. So this is Chris's Controversial Corner, videotized. I don't know the word, but now in color. Fabulous Technicolor. Can you give me Technicolor?
No, I'll put Technicolor.
Just, who? Technicolor.
Not like Joseph in the Technicolor.
Don't edit that out either. Leave it. Leave that in.
Do you want like rainbow colored also?
Yes, rainbow Technicolor.
Oh, yeah.
We're playing this out as we go. Okay, so what I want to talk to you guys about today, everybody's heard by now, the big rumor, oh, Final Fantasy Verses XIII is canceled. Oh wait, it's not canceled, just kidding. Well, you know what, at this point, let me ask anybody, who cares at this point? What does Final Fantasy Verses XIII mean to us right now? Probably not a lot. It's another one of those games where it looked great, it sounded like it was going to be great, but nothing ever came of it. Let's look at what's happened. A few things that have happened since they announced Verses XIII. Too Human, a very long delayed game, originally on the PlayStation 1, released. Duke Nukem Forever, released. We've had two Final Fantasy XIIIs. We had another Final Fantasy game set in the same universe for the Vita in Japan. We had a Final Fantasy MMO fail and then become rebuilt to not fail so hard anymore. We're already talking about Final Fantasy 15, and we're almost done with the generation. Square Enix is already showing their new engine, and the question is, like, what do you do with 13? Even if they release it in this generation, it's like, it's one of those games where, what purpose does it serve at this point? It was this glorious, I mean, everybody can probably remember the first time they saw it. Any hardcore PlayStation 3 fan is going to remember when they saw the first trailer for Verses XIII. That game looked incredible. There was flashy fights, it looked so cool. We had some gameplay, years, that's how bad this was handled. Years later, we finally saw gameplay. A little on the Kingdom Hearts side, but it still looked awesome. And yet, you know, nothing. This game looked good. People were going to buy this game. They could release a terrible, terrible game. People are going to buy it because it's Verses XIII, just like they bought Final Fantasy XIII. Not that that's a terrible game, but I will say this. They're hurting Final Fantasy Verses XIII by not releasing it, because here's what's happening. You got Final Fantasy XIII that came out, did well with critics, but players didn't like it as much. I didn't care for it. Mark didn't care for it. I know people who, you know, did like it a little bit, but it wasn't one of those wow Final Fantasies. This was one of the not quite sure what Square's trying to do here. It's another Final Fantasy X2, if you will. And then, if that's not bad enough, they went Final Fantasy X2 and made a sequel, which was even worse. How do you follow up a game that wasn't well received by fans? Well, let's make a sequel that's not as good. Brilliant. Brilliant. One more time for good measure. Brilliant. Whoever. Brilliant. So, you know, Square Enix is just causing this level of doubt that they've never really had before. I mean, back when Squaresoft was Squaresoft, Final Fantasy was undeniable. Final Fantasy, it wasn't just another game, it was an event. When Final Fantasy VII hit on that original PlayStation, it was huge. It's all anybody was talking about. Oh my god, this game is incredible. People still talk about Final Fantasy VII to this day, and how they want a remake to it, which, with Square Enix the way they are right now, don't do it, because you're going to ruin a good thing. You've done it before, you'll do it again. The other problem now is that, you know, they don't have that legacy. They had the PlayStation 1 where everything was good. They had the PS2 where they started to falter a little bit, but you could tell that there was still that, you know, bit of Square in there still that had Final Fantasy. You felt confident going in. And Final Fantasy XIII, it looked so flashy. They were like, yeah, we're going to have all these games set in this universe, and it's going to be great. And it wasn't great. was not great. Some people got pissed that it went to the Xbox. Not a big deal. I don't care. Still bought it on the PS3 myself. That's just me. A lot of people bought it on the Xbox. You got other things where, you know, the sequel coming out. Some people did like it, but that was a terrible move. Final Fantasy has always been a game about this is happening right now, and then the next game is something else happening. And I personally, I know there's people out there who liked it, especially if they played the international version, but I hated X2. I thought it was just Charlie's Angels anime, super Japanese girl game. Hated it with a passion. And I thought it was the one game in the Final Fantasy series that I could really sit down and say, you know what, this game is just plain bad. I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to test out a new combat style, which eventually became, you know, kind of evolved into what we saw a little bit in 12, but mostly I think what we saw in 13. But, you know, Square has gone from these, you know, action-packed, you know, kind of battles where you're constantly fighting for your life to these battles in 13 where it's not about how, you know, it's not about fighting. It's about, oh, I gotta switch to this because I can only win if I do certain things, you know. It takes some of the fun in a game like Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy VIII is just running around, getting in that random encounter, and just knowing, oh, I'm gonna crush these guys. All I need to do is hold down X or hold down circle. These guys are done. Now you gotta fill up the frickin', I don't even remember the name of the meter.
What's it called?
I don't even remember the name of the meter. Stagger. Ha! The stagger meter. You gotta fill the stagger meter because God forbid you don't fill the stagger meter unless you're fighting something way lower. Not gonna kill it. But you fight any tough monster in Final Fantasy 13 and you don't mess with that stagger meter. Like, Final Fantasy 13 tries to force you to play its game. It says, okay, we have these pieces in place. Do it this way. Man, in video I get way off topic. Is it just about Square Enix at this point?
Oh, it's about
I totally was talking about Final Fantasy Verses 13 to start. Now I'm just talking about Square Enix.
I thought you were talking about 13.
I am talking about 13, but now it's just about Square Enix and how they suck.
Well,
You heard me, Square Enix.
I thought that was the point of it.
Was it? I thought we were doing Versus mostly.
No, it's your
Whatever.
Whatever.
Chris' Controversial Corner, Square Enix. So, you know, they tried to force players into something, and I really didn't like that. And the sequel tried to alleviate some of that, but they still didn't do it. And, you know, you can't do that. Final Fantasy is all about a game about, you know, you have your journey, but you do it the way you want. The best Final Fantasy games, 7, 8, 9, 10, you know.
Legends 3, Super Nintendo.
All the great Final Fantasies of yesteryear, you know, PS2 and earlier. They were all about, not so much 12, I didn't care for 12 myself, or 11, we don't count those. Pre-11, those were great games. You know, they had the story, they had the excitement, and they had that kind of mindless battle that just makes everything, you know, fun. It was just mindless, not even mindless fun, but it was just fun. It was easy. You know, you could just go into a battle and not have to worry. But now you gotta be, oh, he's not staggered anymore, so I gotta switch to Ravager. Oh no, my Ravagers are going, so now I need to switch back so I can use my medic. And then God forbid I could get a potion that heals me for more than 100 hit points. There was no high potion.
He's healed.
I have like 100, heal 100, or 200. It's like, got 5,000 health, but if I keep throwing potions, maybe there goes all my health again. Start over. Potion.
I didn't even care about items. Items weren't even important in that game.
Like, it's just so ass backwards. And now, you know, Versus 13, the one game that everybody was saying, you know, 13. Maybe wasn't as great as everybody thought. Maybe we didn't get the, what did they end up calling it? Typo in Japan? Final Fantasy Typo.
Typo.
What used to be Agiato or whatever.
Yeah, Typo.
It's Typo. Yeah, we didn't get Typo over here. Versus 13, there was hope, and now there's talk of cancellation. And now, oh no, it's not canceled. But if it's not canceled, what is it going to do? Do you really take this game that's been in production on the PlayStation 3 since 2006 and release this game when next year, let's be honest, they're going to announce new consoles? And then, do you take this game and move it to the new consoles? Do you really take this, at this point, old game? This game is old. It's based on an idea from 2006, which so is 13, but look at how 13 turned out. Do we want a game that follows that same methodology and then take it to the next generation where everything's supposed to be bigger and badder? Or do we even risk the chance of trying to do it over just to do this dance all over again? I don't think so. What do you think?
Shows up, no. Oh, so you went on Gamescom. They announced their list of games they're going to talk about versus they're not on the list again.
Well, of course it's not.
So,
they don't talk about Versus.
So
Versus is like the redheaded stepchild who, after everyone's eaten, they throw him a bucket of scraps. Why? Why?
I was going to pre-order a game, never going to Ghost.
Like, and all the people who did pre-order. I mean, come on, Duke Nukem Forever came out. For the love of God.
Hey.
We own Duke Nukem Forever.
Leave him out. Leave him out of this. Leave the Duke out of this.
He released a game. A game that was canceled. Legitimately canceled. Still came out. That's older than this game. And we still don't have Versus 13. And then if you cancel it, what happens to all that money you put into this game? Unless, here we go, probably why they're not talking about it, what if there's really no game to it? What if we're just looking at a couple of tech demos and Square just never did anything with it? Which is almost worse than just outright canceling the game. What does it mean if they say, oh, well, we weren't doing much? What was it? I think I told you the other night. In like 2010 or 2011 is when they said they went into full production on the game.
Yeah.
They announced it in 2006. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody. If you announce a game in 2006, shouldn't you be working on the game in 2006 and 2007 and 2008 and 2009? No, let's talk about the game in 2006 and not do anything with it until 2010. Now we're going to go into full production. If Blizzard did that, we still wouldn't have StarCraft 2, Diablo 3, or any World of Warcraft expansions.
Which, let's face it, we're okay with the no World of Warcraft expansion.
But I mean, you know, if every developer decided, like if Blizzard came out and it was like in 2006, did they announce StarCraft 2? I think it was 6, 5 or 6. Came out and said, yeah, we're working on StarCraft 2. Wait, you know, 6 years later, yeah, so we're now in full production on StarCraft 2. It'll be out in 2018.
My soul would cry. CGI bullets.
Square Enix is setting a very bad precedence. They are not doing any favors for their fans right now. There's a proverbial ball here. I am Square Enix, and use your imaginations. This is the proverbial ball, okay? This is what Square Enix is doing with the ball. Can't tell, but I dropped it. I, as Square Enix, just dropped the ball. And on the ball, that's now shattered on the floor, it says, Versus 13. I just dropped the ball on Versus 13. Oh, well, don't worry about it. People aren't going to know. What we'll do is we'll just talk about it only when people ask us a lot. We won't talk about it canceling. And by the time the next gen comes out, nobody's going to care. We'll just let it fade away into obscurity.
You know, I wouldn't be mad at them if they just canceled the game outright.
It would be better!
But then if they throw out Kingdom Hearts 3 instead, I would still be happy.
That'd be good, but all they need to do, the least you can do is just don't screw with people. Either cancel the game or release the game. Even if it's bad, at this point people will buy it. We saw what happened to Duke Nukem.
Rage was also really bad, and
Rage wasn't a very good game. That came out and
4 years after they announced it.
God, Two Human wasn't that great. I liked Two Human.
Two Human was a good game.
That came out. I liked it. I did enjoy it.
I enjoyed it too. They should make a
Generally speaking, people hated it though.
They should make a sequel.
They won't.
You know, they ended it. They could have.
See, they make a halfway decent game. They don't get a sequel. Meanwhile, Square Enix is, you know, sitting there with their thumbs up their ass, playing around with Versus 13. Just wait till this next convention. Watch the reactions. Okay, post the list. First comment, where's Versus? I told you $50. You owe me $50. I told you the very first one.
It's never gonna. They're not gonna announce it. They're not gonna say anything.
They're not gonna say anything. This game is going to fade away. I'm calling it now. Okay. Versus 13. If it is not announced for a 2013 release date, quote me. For truthiness. If Versus 13 is not announced for a 2013 release date, either in 2012 or in the first half of 2013, if it does not release in 2013, that game will never come out. I'm giving Square Enix, and for those of you saying, oh, he doesn't have the balls to say further, I'm giving Square Enix a grace period here. I am giving them an opportunity to maybe, you know, that one guy in the office say, hey, maybe we should actually make this game.
Do something.
And then maybe light bulbs start going off, and people say, yeah, let's do that.
You know, they're like, hey, let's
I know they're not,
Let's
but
just
that's
see-
okay. If
Wait.
it does not release in 2013, Versus 13 will not be a real game.
You know what?
Ever.
I guarantee if it doesn't release next year, I bet you we see a Sleeping Dogs 2 before Versus 13.
You heard it from Mark, Sleeping Dogs 2 before Versus 13. I'll even call it another Kane and Lynch sequel. We'll see another Kane and Lynch sequel before Versus 13.
If they do that-
We will see the announcement of
Tomb
Kane
Raider
and
2.
Lynch before anything.
And Tomb Raider 2.
Tomb Raider 2.
Let's see, all the games that Bethesda are coming out in the next like fiscal quarter are going to be all sequels before it comes out.
Okay, here we go. Ready?
Tomb Raider.
When they announce the new consoles next year at E3, because it's going to happen, Final Fantasy 15 will be there.
Oh yeah.
With no talk of Versus 13. When that day comes, my friends, that's why I'm giving them the first half of 2013. If they don't talk about Versus, when we get to E3, it's too late. The game is dead. You heard it here, folks. You heard it here first, folks. Thank you very much. From those gaming nerds, Versus 13. If it doesn't come out in 13, dead in the water. Dead on arrival, or lack thereof. So guys, this has been longer than the average written piece. We're going to work this out. You know, this is the first one. I think it went good. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This has been Chris's Controversial Corner. I just noticed I'm not actually in a corner.
No.
The camera's in a corner, so that's Chris's Controversial Corner, where the camera is. And this has been Chris from ThoseGamingNerds.com. And please, guys, hit that subscribe button. Check us out on the website. Like us on Facebook. Check out my live stream, twitch.tv/NightmareCV, youtube.com/NightmareCV for highlights and daily vlogs. We love you. Full homo.